Okay, this is the third example for how to use the quadratic formula. So if I was given the quadratic 7x squared minus 2x equals 8, and my goal is to solve this, the first thing I would have to do is set it equal to 0. So it must equal 0 if you're going to solve it. It has to get into standard form. So subtract 8 on both sides. So 7x squared minus 2x minus 8 equals 0. Okay, my next step would be to come up with my discriminant. So how many solutions am I even going to have? So I have A, B, and C. 7, negative 2, negative 8, A, B, C. And then I find the discriminant. So it is B squared minus 4 times A times C. And I know we've had this discussion a couple times, but it's always good to remember when you're plugging numbers in, you should put them in parentheses, especially if you're doing a square, because you want to make sure that you are actually squaring negative 2 and not squaring 2 and then throwing a negative on the front. So if you're plugging numbers in, put them in parentheses. So negative 2 squared is 4. And I've got a negative times a negative, so we'll be adding, yeah, 4 times 7 times 8. So I already took care of the double negative. So we got 224 plus 4, so 228 is my discriminant. Which means, that's right, I have 2 solutions. This is a positive number, I'm going to get 2 answers out of this. If you're going through all your steps, could you solve this by just undoing the order of operations? Nope, you have a b value. Can you solve this by just factoring out a greatest common factor? No, because if I wanted to do that, I would at least have to pull an x out to the front, and the negative 8 doesn't have an x, so no. Can I solve this with a factor box? Well, is 228 a perfect square? Nope. So the only way to solve this quadratic is to use the quadratic formula. So this would be a great time for you to pause and see if you can set up the quadratic formula and go as far as you can on your own, then push play and see how you did. Okay, the quadratic formula. X equals the opposite of b. B is already negative 2, and I need the opposite of b. So positive 2 plus or minus the square root of the discriminant, 228. All divided by 2 times a. So this is a trickier one than the other examples we worked on. This first piece has to be the opposite of b. So a lot of times when you see something that looks like negative sign b, you say negative b. Well, what happens if b is already negative? So this really means the opposite. So if your b is negative to begin with, you want the opposite of it. So you'll put in the positive. Then we get to split it. X equals 2 plus the square root of 228 all over 14. Or x is 2 minus the square root of 228 all over 14. Then we very carefully put them in the calculator. 2 plus the square root of 228 divided by 14. So x is approximately, we're going out to the thousandths place, so the third decimal, look behind it, 4 means round down, so we'll leave it alone, 1.221. And when we do the subtraction version, we get negative 0.9 3 and this 6 will round the 5 up to a 6. So 9, 3, 6. And those would be our two answers. You could plug them in for x one at a time. So put this in for both x's and try it. You'll get really close to 0. Put this in for both x's and try it. You'll get really close to 0. If you have the ability to put it into a graphing calculator, you could trace along, or you could type in the answers you got. They should get you very, very close to the x-axis, because that's when it equals 0. So if I do trace and I type in my 1.221 and push enter, really goes to 0. And if I plug in my negative 0.936, it also gets me pretty darn close to 0. Okay, that is how you use the quadratic formula. If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to email me. Come to office hours on Thursday from 10 to 11. And good luck.